The siren is not a song. I turn panic into sentences, and most nights that's enough of a biography. My name is Daniel. I work nights at Metro 911, a room of glass and headsets where the city remembers how to breathe out loud. If you've never stood in a dispatch center at 0200, imagine a library with alarms, desks in a horseshoe around a wall of maps, a sky of monitors with weather and unit locations, and the slow pulse of everyone who forgot how mortal they are. We call it the floor like a stage. It isn't one. At home, there's James, an art teacher who can get a sixth grader to try charcoal without crying, and a grown man to stop apologizing for his own hands. We keep our rules on an index card, taped to the fridge with a magnet shaped like a tiny ambulance. They are mundane because mundane is what survives. No afters without names and minutes. Compliments open no doors. Hands belong to what they're holding. Last winter, we added a fourth after a videographer on a facility tour reached for my jaw to help the shot. It reads, "The siren is not a song." People want to know what I actually do. They think I press a red button and let heroism happen. I translate fear into nouns and verbs. I ask where before what and what before who and who before how. I teach strangers their own addresses. I listen for the unsaid, the crash no one mentions because they have already decided which part is important, the breath that's more wind than lungs, the child who knows the color of her mother's pills but not the word for them. I keep a list of verbs I trust: breathe, press, lie down, unlock. I don't keep a list of miracles. I don't work for a god. When the city turned 100, the mayor's office staged a week of open city events. There were firehouse pancake breakfasts, a scooter amnesty day, and because donors like painless bravery, a 10-minute live stream from our center to let people feel the choreography. If you've ever listened to a cardiac arrest come back as a cough, you know there is choreography here, but it is boring on purpose. Boring keeps funerals rare. I ask that the stream be shot from behind the glass with a wide lens and a grown-up. I ask that the badge say observer, not media, because nouns make fences when they're honest. I ask that the stream not land during roll call, shift change, or weather advisories. The email answered with a calendar block and a gif of flashing lights that had never waited on hold. James kissed my forehead over the sink. "We can add a line if we need to," he said. He had a kiln schedule to wrangle and a room full of kids who think clay is disobedience. "Promise me," he added, tapping the card. "Promise me," I said back. This is what long love sounds like when neither person has time for speeches. The week before, I did what anxiety calls rehearsal and experience calls maintenance. I walked the floor with a roll of yellow tape and made a polite boundary at the observation rail. I stuck a post-it by CAD that said no REFLECTIONS because lenses prefer stealing to learning. I tested the headsets and wiped the keys and updated the storm macros and asked the clock, quietly, to be kind. The crew arrived in soft shoes and hopes. The front man was a host named Cole with a voice that could say structural collapse and make you want to take up yoga. His producer, Rosa, had a clipboard and the pragmatic forgiveness of people who have met cables. 10 minutes inside the heartbeat, Cole said, palms framing air. Let people feel the magic. Magic has the night off, I said. Protocols are covering. Rosa laughed with relief you don't usually get to see. We rehearsed once with training sims on the screens and the volume turned down to breathable. I pointed out CAD, AVL, the unit stack, the hotkeys for tone outs, the scripts that keep people from dying while they wait. I said the line I keep for places designed for ears, not lenses. Transparency is where the camera stands, not what it steals. Rosa wrote it down. Cole said, love that, the way people collect slogans like charms. The first stream slotted between a welfare check that wasn't and a kitchen fire that almost learned the word attic. The chat, I'm told later, made hearts like they were paying rent. Cole asked what the most important question is. Where? I said, because the city is a face that keeps changing its hair. He asked how I stay calm. By refusing to be special, I said. He asked how I turn people into instructions. One imperative at a time. Then he did what cameras ask men to do, edit each other. You've got a little shine, he murmured, thumb already lifting toward my cheek, toward a collar the lens hated. My body moved 1 centimeter, which doesn't look like a rule until you need it to be one. The siren is not a song, I said, soft enough to save us both. Hands belong to what they're holding. His hand learned his pocket. Rosa redirected the lens to the map where units were breathing in dots. On my screen, Ked blinked a purple that means a baby forgot how to be new. I opened the EMD protocol with the muscle memory of prayer. 911, I said to a stranger. Tell me exactly what happened. A woman cried into my ear and I gave her a ladder. Lay the baby flat, place 2 fingers in the center of the chest, press 1/3 the depth, 30 compressions, 2 breaths. I counted like a metronome that refuses to give up on time. Somewhere inside her voice, the room turned into a different room. Somewhere else a unit hit the door and the radio said words that smell like steel. We got the baby back before the stream ended, which felt obscene to celebrate, so we didn't. Afterward, Alvarez from Fire, who laughs like a hose coupling seating, leaned on the glass. Smallest moves, he said, the ones nobody claps for. Maintenance, I said, not heroics. The second stream was scheduled for 23:30, which is to dispatch what dusk is to airports, the hour with opinions. I asked development to pick another slice of eternity. They sent cupcakes and I took one, and the universe acknowledged we were even. 10 minutes before go time, a storm cell bloomed over the river like a sermon in gray. The screen lit with fender benders, flickering alarms, a transformer that felt melodramatic. I reissued the weather macro, breathed twice, and told the floor to expect the kind of night that makes you say I've heard worse and mean it. Cole asked if we could pivot to this breaking moment. We pivot to duty and view, I said. We do not pivot to spectacle like it's ever a good idea. He nodded like a man willing to learn in public. We went live. I explained that the first thing we ask when everything happens at once is what won't matter in 2 minutes. I explained that triage is a noun and a verb. I explained that copy is a hug we give to reality. I did not explain that my heart rate doesn't get to be special. The room had enough to do. Midstream, 2 creators from town, men with gimbals and confidence borrowed from followers, ducked under the yellow tape to get the angle. One reached toward my headset as if fixing someone else's work could save the internet. 1 centimeter saved us. No, I said, a tone I keep polished. Back behind the line. Rosa cut the feed like mercy. The men did the good thing slow. They moved and tried to look like they'd meant to. A tone out sang a note, and we sent a station toward someone else's worst minute. 2 days later, the city convened an alignment conversation, which is municipal for you and communications must share oxygen. Around the table, me, Rosa, a deputy director with a tie shaped like optimism, Cole, who had learned the posture of listening, and 2 creators who smelled faintly of brand deals. The deputy said harmonize 3 times like it could pay invoices. Cole opened his hands. I confused frame and lock, he said. I wanted intimacy and reached for control. Thanks for the lesson. Rosa proposed printing a line on every badge next year. The siren is not a song. I asked for its sister. Hands belong to what they're holding. We wrote 3 policies that felt older than our pens. First, a 1-meter tape line behind the observation rail during events, stenciled on the floor and printed on maps. Second, camera position charts that say where cameras may be, not just where they may not. Third, a practice of having crews say out loud on mic what they will not shoot before they roll. Make the no part of the script, Rosa said. Make the script smaller, I said. The creators nodded like people who know rent. Depends on being seen nodding at the right time. A week later, a teenager showed up at visitor check-in with a folded page and the respectful anxiety of someone trying to become himself. "Can I read something?" he asked. "Not on camera." He stood behind the rail and read 3 sentences about the first time he dialed 911 for his grandmother and how the voice on the line sounded like a door that doesn't mind being knocked on. He left the paper on the console and ran before his ears could burn. I keep it under the index card now. It wrinkles when the magnet slides, which feels like the right kind of maintenance. You want a moral. I have checklists. Verify address, establish consciousness, control bleeding, monitor breathing, keep talking. Follow the protocol even when it offends your emotion. Say no before you need to. Don't let a camera teach the room what it is. The older I get, the more I think boundaries are kindness that can lift heavy. A well-timed no saves cities from needing very brave people later. Back home after the debrief, James added a 5th line to the card because his classroom had a crop of kids who thought adrenaline could replace consent. 5. Thank the person who keeps the door before the person who brings the light. He wrote it small, the way you write truths you plan to say often. We ate cold noodles on the couch and tried to tell each other the boring parts of our days until they turned into the important parts. Sometimes I replay the inch my face moved, not out of triumph, but because it belongs in the drawer labeled proof that quiet prevents theater. Sometimes I think about the time an apartment fire woke the city with a bad idea, and we sent 3 engines and a borrowed calm, and everyone went home instead of to a wall. Sometimes I think about the old dispatcher who hums before she answers because she swears voices hear the hum and remember their job. All those thoughts live next to the spare headset, the chapstick, and the peppermint I keep for callers who forget they're human. I haven't told you about the night a man sat on the curb outside the hospital and wouldn't go in, and I spoke to his fear until it ran out of slogans. I haven't told you about the mother who counted compressions like multiplication tables. I haven't told you about the time the storm turned all the lights off and the radios still glowed, the rooms quiet like a promise we had already practiced. Those belong to the same family as the sentence we taped to the badge and wrote on the floor and keep adding to our fridge. If you ever visit our center on an open night, you'll stand behind a yellow line and wonder if there's anything to see. There isn't if we've done it right. You'll hear voices that don't want applause. You'll watch hands holding exactly what they're holding. If you feel the itch to fix my collar for the shot, look for the small motion, the small smile, and remember the line. The siren is not a song. The city will still be itself in the morning. That is the only ovation I need.